All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the June 15, 2021 Board of Education regular meeting at 7 p.m. Sarah, good evening to you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bernard.
Here.
Mrs. Beck. Here. Mrs. Blau. Here. Mr. Rosanna.
Here.
Mr. Monson.
Here.
Mrs. Blau.
Here.
Mr. Kaminski.
Here.
Okay, quorum has been established. Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of our school district is inspiring educational excellence and student care.
Okay, celebrate any success anybody would like to bring up?
So you have at your place, board members, a copy of a slide deck that we put together. I that you be able to be here tonight, but she had a family commitment. This is something that I understand she has presented this type of information to you before regarding the Spanish Honor Society and some of the things that she did with her Spanish students at jobs. There's some pretty neat stuff. I'm going to let you look at that. I won't presume to try and present all this on her behalf. When I'm not versed in it, probably do a different job. But what I really would suggest that you take a look at is the second to last page. 8th grade students in Lincoln survey. I think these are some really impressive numbers. 95% of our students in the survey plan to take some sort of language next year. 44% plan to take Spanish 1, 18% Spanish 2 or higher. 2/3 are continuing Spanish after jobs. We have 5 students who will be taking Spanish 2 in the 8th grade in high school as well. And this year, all 3 students in Spanish 2 in 8th grade receive honors credit. So just wanted to share this with you. This is really some good information. And just wanted to say thank you to Lisa and a good job. Is there anything else that you want to, Sarah, you want to add?
I'm doing all the scheduling for the Spanish students next year, so there's a lot more taking advanced classes at the high school, which is great.
Yeah. Great. So I just wanted to share that with you. I think that's something that is noteworthy.
Thanks, Ralph. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I was at the 8th grade graduation, and whoever took part of that, it was a really nice ceremony. So just want to say great job, and it was nice to see the students and working with Rickwood. So thank you for everyone who was involved with that planning and making it come together.
Great. Thanks. Anyone else? I'll just bring up real quick a couple of things. Maybe a week ago, Maria and I were at the luncheon for Julie Rodriguez. Just want to say congratulations to her again. She was giving congratulations and well wishes on behalf of the board that day. I was a great turnout. A lot of staff was here in the gym, and I wish her nothing but the best. And she was given a message from the board, and it was great.
Oh, I attended the preschool ceremony. It was really good to see. There was a lot of families. It was going really well. It looked like everyone was having a really good time. Kids. And activities were fun. Full of pride that we had a really good first year of preschool. And Dave Dorr introduced me to a lot of staff for that thank you. It was good. And I attended the memorial for Matthew this year. And that was really well. I put something there, but it was a really important thing. A lot of people really good turnout too. That's it.
Very good. Anyone else?
Michelle, you want to talk briefly about kindergarten graduation? I thought that was really cool. I got to come to one of them.
That's in my
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We had 5 kindergarten ceremonies. Due to COVID, we did separate ceremonies for each classroom. It was great. It was a really great day. I would say the gym was almost full in every one of them. As you know, the kindergarten graduation ceremony celebration has just really been a very treasured thing in Orange. So we were very happy to be able to get people together. We had blocked socially distanced 4 chairs, and kind of similar to like the 8th grade graduation, but smaller. It was great. Great time.
So a lot of really cool, good things going on inside the district. So you'll see some of those board members in the future at these events. That's great. You guys done a great job. Great job. All right. Do we have more of an update on the Spanish program? Or?
No, that's it.
All right, moving on to an action item. Ask the board to consider the approval of the agenda as presented and or possibly modified. Any discussion on this? All right. Due to no discussion, I'll need a motion to approve the agenda as presented, modified.
I don't know.
Motion made by Lou, second by Mark. Sarah, roll call, please.
Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Tribuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala? Yes.
Okay, the motion is carried. I'd like to recognize the visitors that we do have tonight for being here. Correspondence. No correspondence to report tonight. Don't think there's any public participation, but we will double check. Did anything come in via email? Michelle? Well, anything not on the sheet there? Will you address? Okay. Nothing. All right. Moving on to FOIA request. Request to report. Administrative report. Interim superintendent, Mr. Ross.
Just briefly, I'm really excited this evening to report to you that we concluded today a series of 3 meetings with the Teacher Association to really look at how do we best leverage our ESSER II dollars and our ESSER III stimulus dollars. We had approximately 15 people participate in that committee. We met 3 times. We asked the group to give us their candid feedback on those things, projects, or initiatives that would really move the needle on student achievement. And we reviewed a decision-making framework that helped guide our conversation a little bit. I want to share with you the committee met this afternoon and identified the following as the top 4 items that we're going to really begin to zero in and focus on. And I will be bringing more of this to you as we go forward. So first, to develop a research-based, data-driven, comprehensive, continuous school improvement planning process. I was really pleased to see that be one of the top 2 vote getters, if you will. As I told the group, developing this kind of process becomes the umbrella under which everything else we do with regard to student achievement will fall. And so this is something that I've done many times with districts and teams that I've worked with. Really excited to get started. Second was to conduct a review of grade level standards at each grade level by subject, and really take a hard look at the number of standards that we have. Is the number of standards we have appropriate? Is it manageable? And some things like that. Mr. Gadsby made a point at graduation to recognize the 8th graders who graduated having met all standards at the 8th grade. There are 150 standards that students obtain mastery on. That's a great number, and we want to take a look at that and make sure that we're focused right. Okay. So again, I was really pleased to see that come up to the top of the list. The third item that we want to perhaps focus on is some upgrades to the Library Resource Center of Jobs. That received the 3rd highest number of dots, if you will. And then the group identified funds to pay for additional staff. as a fourth priority. And there's a lot that's encompassed in that statement, and we'll flush this out for you as we go forward. But number one, I'm not surprised that was mentioned. Number two, I think it's going to give us a really good opportunity to look at, do we have the right people in the right place doing the right things? And if we don't, what do we need to do to fill those gaps? We asked them to focus on 7 areas. Building and grounds, and they identified 23 items that they wanted further consideration for. Technology, they identified 9 items relative to technology. Curriculum initiatives, they came up with 18 different items they wanted us to look at. Staffing needs had 16 individual items. Professional development had 23. Issues, the next major category was the budget, and they came up with 8 items for that. And then we kind of had a catch-all called it miscellaneous, and we had 16 items. So from where I sit, they really spent a lot of time identifying a lot of things that potentially we could look at going forward. What's really neat is with the items that they've identified, we can roll some of these other items into those conversations. So this is something that I'm really looking forward to getting started. I'm really very pleased with the input and the participation from the staff. So where we go from here in the short term is we will take this information, use it to fill out our federal grants and our 1 or 2 state grants that we get, if that many. And get those submitted, and then we'll work on putting in place some of those other things. So this is really kind of I think, a game changer for us, if you will, because now it kind of focuses on work going forward. So any questions on that?
I'm
No, a
sorry.
lot of stuff really quick.
What was your number 2 thing? Building and grounds, what was the second thing?
Technology.
Thank you.
Yeah, the thing to remember about technology, you know, COVID-19 really forced school districts to move up their technology plans. If they didn't have one-to-one devices prior to the pandemic, they probably do now. And even if they had, short-term and long-term plans, they accelerated with us to meet the needs of being able to teach remotely.
Do we get to see these lists, like, 'cause that would be helpful for us on building and grounds. to see
Yeah, I just didn't type them up, but I think I have them. So yes, we can share those with you. Yes, we will.
God bless.
We will. And then the other thing that I wanted to just share with you tonight is we have, I should say, Michelle and Bob and Dave have been conducting interviews for our vacant teacher positions this week. We've had some decent response, I think, to our postings. But the headline for you, board, is that we hope to bring recommendations to you next month on filling the positions that we have candidates that we're comfortable for. All right, so we're moving along, continuing to make plans and getting ready for August, whatever it is, 23rd. 23rd. Sounds quick. We'll have other things to share with you as part of the agenda. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Building monthly reports. Michelle?
I want to also talk a little bit about the preschool celebration. As you know, this was our first year of a blended preschool program, and we had a celebration at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the 1-hour celebration between 5 and 6 in the courtyard. Beautiful day, and we had a great response from families and really a really good time. Everyone had fun, a lot of playing. The kids were playing together. They had some popsicles. They had a really good time. We handed out some certificates of achievement for preschool. It was a lot of fun. It's our first year of the program. I'm sure it will continue to grow as we continue to grow the preschool. As I mentioned, our kindergarten celebrations that all took place actually on the same day for graduation. So that was a big graduation day for us. A lot of fun. Our kindergarten celebrations went very well. We're so happy to be able to have them. Last year when we went out COVID in March, we were unable to, as you know, but the kindergarten teachers went out to each kindergarten home and celebrated with the students individually. This year, we were able to have the program, which was nice. We have some summer work at Lee that is starting to get planned out. As you know, we have summer school at Lee, which Mr. Vandy is going to speak about, but we, once that's over, then we're all ready to go with packing up and moving out for the front entrance area, for the floor that's going in, the asbestos abatement projects that are happening in the office and in the lounge. We're getting ready for all of that. There's a lot of work going on. I want to also mention Matthew's Memorial, which took place in June. We wanted to wait, and you recall Matthew passed away in January. However, we wanted to wait till we were able to have a proper memorial. We had people and his family. We had about 20 members of his family here. We had t-shirts made, bracelets. We honored them with some of his artwork that we framed. Also some t-shirts for them with his artwork on it. And we named, if you go outside here towards the learning center, towards Tiger Territory, that hallway is going to be where our sensory path is, our new sensory path. And we have named that sensory path after, dedicated that to Matthew's Tiger Trail. So that will be put together this summer from our members of our student assistant team. That Lee will be putting that together. And we had a plaque made for his family and for our area to dedicate that to Matthew. So we were very happy to be able to do that. And we were, PTA sponsored all of them for us, which was great. We're really appreciative of PTA and their efforts to help us. Just a final note, now that we're June 15th, I just want to thank you for the school year. It was a challenging year for all of us. But looking back on it and the different areas that we grew in, I'm really proud of our district. Obviously very proud of the school and everything that we went through. And being back on April 6th, when we were all back in person, full day, certainly in my belief was the right move, and I was really happy to see it. It feels like it's not going to be that big of a change in the fall when we're all back because we made that decision. So just want to thank you for the year. It was a tough year, but I think we grew a lot. My last thing was to mention also the interviews that were taking place. The three of us are interviewing right now. Social studies certainly has the most candidates available. We've had some great conversations with people. If you know anyone that is looking for a special education position, please send them our way. We have 3 open positions, and those are difficult to fill. Any questions?
I don't know if this is, I just thought of it now when you said something about 8th grade graduation happening on the same day. So I was wondering if it would be possible for next year when we come up with our graduation night, can we coordinate it with Pinoyers so that they're not on the same night? Because I know our village officials had a split and trying to do split duties. And so I think it would be awesome for them to be able to attend all of them.
Sure. We will definitely, we're just at that point, if we kind of tentatively have a date for graduation, we can reach out to Pinoy.
Thanks.
Just spoke to Pinoy principal today, so I'll give that one.
Sorry, I just thought of that.
No, it's good. I saw them all walk in and they were disappointed that it's have to pick where you're going.
All right, thanks, Mr. Bob. Guys?
So I'd like to thank everyone for attending the 8th grade graduation. I know we talked about it, but it meant a lot to the students and the staff to see everyone there. So thank you very much for attending. Also, I would like to thank the Village of Norwich and Village of Howard Heights for attending graduation as well with the Pinoyer going on. They were able to make it at the end, so it was nice. I did have a discussion with them and thank them all for attending, so thank you. I also wanted to inform all of you that I sent a letter to Ridgewood High School and to the Board of Education, thanking them for partnering with us and always supporting us in everything that we do. So I wanted to let you know that I did send that letter to the board and to Dr. Kessel over at Ridgewood High School. Also, we have summer school going on, which started last Wednesday, very successful. kids are energized, they're excited, they're glad to be back in the building. A lot of opportunities are being provided for them. It's great to see them. I walk through the building, walk into classes, and they're working on some art. They have art to go in there and just see everyone working together, and they're having a good time. And that's great to see during the summer to continue their skills and enhancing those and learning new skills. So that's wonderful. Also, we are currently, as Ms. Guzik and Mrs. Guzik and Mr. Grimm have noted, we're working on our staffing plan for next school year. We're also cleaning of the buildings. So with Giles, the construction going on over at Giles, I am now based out of Lee here. So if anyone needs to be in contact with me, I'll be here at Lee School during the summer while that's going on. I would like to thank the buildings and grounds crew. They're doing an amazing job. Very impressive. They do such detailed work, and they all should be commended. But they're doing a great job, including the summer school staff. When I go to Giles, usually I'll start my morning really quick over at Giles. The outside looks beautiful with the landscaping, and it's great to see here. It's great to see at Giles with that. So, and that's all because of the buildings and grounds crew. So thank them for that. And basically that concludes my report.
Board, any questions? Thank you very much. Special education report?
I just want to take a moment and say personally thank you for bringing me on board and taking a chance on me to be your director's dad. It's been an incredible first year and in trying times, and I just really grateful for that. I really do mean that. And I just really want to publicly thank both Bob and Michelle for, especially Michelle for her mentorship during this time. I think she really taught me a lot, and I really appreciate that. So I just want to take that moment personal. We are, I believe, 3 years out of the co-op that ran all of our IEP meetings. And that is no small task. This year we had 290 meetings, official meetings, 144 at Lee, and 70 at Giles. That was all done by our staff internally, not with using outside resources. So that's an incredible lift that this district has undertaken. I've been immensely proud of our staff in making sure that all of our students are included in the celebrations, including providing opportunities for a lot of our students who are at our other serving schools, where their needs we're working on plans of including all students, and all students in order to our part of our programming. ESY is currently underway, and that's going well. We also started a massive co-teaching initiative this year. We provide professional development on developing relationships and collaboration with June 4th and June 7th, partnering with West 40 ROE. And we have a committee of 13 people coming together on July 21st to kind of develop that next phase. I have a lot of ideas, but we definitely want to have kind of a lot of stakeholders and people buying into what that looks like. We're currently looking for the right candidate for our open positions that match the needs of our district and our community. There's a lot of kind of just compliance paperwork, data analytics that we're kind of doing at this point to make sure that we're seeing, how do we grow? We're doing a lot of great things. How do we even do them better tomorrow? And then one thing just to make the board aware of, there currently are, IAASE is the professional organization that I'm a member of as a special education administrator. And there are currently 8 bills that are signed by that are not signed, that have been passed by the House of Representatives and the Senate that are waiting governor's signature that have direct implications on special education. Most of them, a lot of them, deal with transition age students, so high school age students, but that's something that we're aware of so that we have a plan. And I just, one of them deals with restraint and seclusion, which I'm sure, even where that's been a big part of it, making sure that we have policies to make sure we're supporting our students if they're in a time of crisis. So that's something that the state has a vested interest in, and it draws a lot of public attention. There just was a Chicago Tribune article about it last week. So it's something that we want to make sure that we have a plan, in place, and hopefully we don't have to use the plan, but we have a plan. So, not just looking where we want to go, but also not where we've been, but also where we want to go. So, thank you again.
Board, any questions? Thanks. Monthly staffing report.
We just every month like to keep you informed with a staffing report. There there aren't really any changes on this month, but do you have any questions?
Moving on to our discipline data.
So discipline data for the month, only at only at Lee, we had one suspension. It was an out-of-school suspension. You don't have anything like that?
No reported, sir.
Okay, thank you both. Moving on to our board committees. Board policy and development, I just touched on, you'll see later in the agenda, the board is going to look to approve a new board policy in regards to students' use of educational technology, student data privacy and security. This will be our second reading with adoption tonight. Other than that, I'll leave a report on the board policy and development side. Building and grounds.
Yeah, I do have a few things. This is Kuzik touched on, classes for the communication starts pretty much right after summer school ends. You remember that that is followed by restoring or basically somewhat of a remodel of the teacher's lounge. Lead here because in order to get to the floor, we have to pretty much uplift everything. Is anybody unclear on what the Lee entrance renovation is about? Talked about it 3 times. Okay. That's a good start. Also, it's, as I understand now, it's already started because upon parking, I saw that some of the asphalt cracks were already filled. But by July's meeting, we should see filling and seal coating of all asphalt parking areas, courtyards, pathways. I'm thinking by the July meeting, it's going to be done. As Mr. Yankee touched on, the summer help has been doing a lot. Lou and I were thrilled to hear about the power washing of the facade here, stone facade. Lots of landscaping going on. Right here at both schools, I didn't know that what was being Giles as much too. I understand that there's ongoing painting going on at Giles. I'm sure that's needed. And soon those daycare bathrooms should finally be done. They're 97% there. There's a lot of waiting for supplies and stuff like that. It should be done very soon. That's about it.
Good question, Frank. The track that we approved.
Yeah.
Is it here or when it's
I don't remember hearing anything about the lead time.
I'm sure it's quite a bit.
You said outside.
When
is it?
Is it here?
Joe just mentioned this to us the other day, that they ordered it, they thought it was going to be quick, and so they expected it to be quicker, because at the time they ordered it, they said things were in stock. Since then, there have been things that are not in stock,
So it's not here.
it's not here. We'll do a show and tell with it.
Probably 2 month lead time, I'm guessing everything is.
Careful.
Lumber.
Is it made of?
Material is
lumber.
It's rocket. The prices are seen on anything made of any metal, so I hope they don't try to come back and say an accessory, now we have to make it, but the deal is
Yeah,
cut.
it's done, you purchased it.
Any other questions, comments?
It's going to be exciting though. It's going to shock the world.
All right, Frank, thanks for the report. Communications.
We have nothing yet today.
Finance.
We do not have anything at this time.
Okay. Negotiations, follow suit, nothing else. And I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, the next three on posted on the agenda, education, parent, teacher advisory, and also the behavioral intervention committee. We're approaching those as committees as a whole, correct? All right, we don't have established board members specifically to those three, so I do not believe there's any to report right now. We just kind of put those in place. North Park District.
Nothing specific to report, but being that Chris and I are new, we plan on reaching out to the Park District to introduce Anne Marie that will be on the board. What I want to talk to about with the board is Norwich Park District always focused on preschool and preschool only and renting the facility. I would like to expand that and see what other resources we can utilize the Park District. Potentially after school program, or anything else that we could work with them besides just the preschool program and rental space. So With the board's approval, if you guys are okay with me seeing and reaching out to see if there's other resources and opportunities we can work together. If so, then we'll plan something in July, late July, maybe August, just to meet with them. Shoot for July, hopefully.
That's great. Any motion, anyone else from the board?
Anything after school activity? I need to go to something.
That's great. Thank you, Russell. IASB?
I'm remembering right now.
What's on here? Has anybody been talking to the IASB last month? Okay. All right.
You want that taken off?
Is that the conclusion we made? I can check the minutes, Sarah. Is that the conclusion we made?
Hurry up.
Yeah, let's just double check if we agree as a board to take that out. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. I'm going to ask for consideration approval of the consent agenda. Any discussion by the board? Without discussion, I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion made by Frank, seconded by Bob. Sarah, roll call, please.
Mr. Kaduca?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Plaza?
Yes.
Mrs. Lau? Yes. Mr. Berard?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Yeah, the motion does carry. Moving on to action items. Consider approval of revisions to the parent-student handbook for the 2021 through 2022 school year. Any discussions from the board?
I just want to thank Bob and Michelle and Dave for all their work on this. This ended up being quite an extensive project, and I can't put it under the consent. I think last month when I said we would bring this to you for approval this month, and they did a really good job getting this done. I think this book now better represents our mission statement, and I'm confident that it meets all the required notifications that we have to provide somehow, and it's just easier to put in this book. So, certainly our recommendation is to approve this, and post it on the website and make sure that it's available as part of the registration process. We'll have a couple of copies in each office in case somebody wants to come in. But this is a big project, and I hats off to those three for getting it done and doing a really good job on it.
So I'll echo those. Thank you very much for updating it, putting us into the compliance that we need to be in. That's the goal of this board. That was the goal for a couple of years now. So we are where we need to be. Thank you very much for doing it. Making sure we're going to get it.
So does this get distributed at registration? And is it a real book or is it all online now?
Yes. So we have to provide access to all of our parents and our students. I'm from the Stone Age. We used to, have hard copies and students had to sign an acknowledgement form. Now that everything's online, they click a button saying that they are aware that it's available. Okay, and that meets the notification requirement. And like I said, we will have hard copies available in each of the office in case somebody comes in and says, I can't get it online, I don't see it. We will also post this on the district webpage.
Thank you.
Okay, as for motion to approve the revisions to the parent-student handbook for the 2021 to 2022 school year. Okay, motion made by Chris and Maria. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Lau? Yes. Mr. Plaza?
Yes.
Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Kaduca?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Berard?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Consider the approval of the board meeting minutes. Any discussions or comments? I'll ask for a motion to approve the board meeting minutes.
Motion.
Bob, seconded by Chris. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Berard?
Yes.
Mr. Kaduca?
Yes.
Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Plaza?
Yes.
Mrs. Lau? Yes.
Okay, that motion is carried. Consider the approval of bid quote for the replacement of teacher computers and smart boards. Any discussion or questions?
So what I want to point out is we need to update the tools that we give our teachers to do the job the best they can. What we found when we looked at this is that we had some pretty significant needs that financially we probably weren't able to do all of these at one time. So what you're seeing tonight is the first phase of what will amount to the 3-year plan. So we'll bring something like this back to you again, perhaps in April or May next year, but we are going to do a certain number of classrooms here at Lee and a certain number of classrooms at Giles. Michelle, you have that up where you can help me with that, that would be great.
I think there are 14 classrooms total, and I think there are 7, I think it's even 7 split.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, 9 at Lee and 5 at Giles.
And part of that is because there's been some upgrading here and there as we go along, but John did a nice job. We talked about it, administrative meetings. John has gotten quotes for both the teacher devices, which is going to go with an upper end Chromebook, and then replace the smart boards in the classrooms. The Chromebook and the smart boards will talk and work with each other. We made sure that we look at that. So, Mr. President, what I'd like to ask is you would approve each quote separately, if that would be all right. And we will decide in the next couple of days whether we're going to go ahead and submit this or whether we're going to hold this until after July 1 for our ESSER funding. I know that probably makes Dr. Schilling a little bit nervous, but you can bet we'll do what we need to do.
You said for the Chromebooks for the teachers, it's 24. So how often are we ordering?
We're going to have this on a 3-year cycle.
Okay, so we're starting with the teachers that have the oldest ones?
John previously had a cycle, so we're continuing his cycle that he had. So this is kindergarten, first grade, 6th grade, PE, and music. So it's a cycle that we've already had going, so yes, the answer there, short answer, yes, oldest one.
Now, if there are individual circumstances where somebody comes to us and says, hey, look, I wasn't in the cycle, but I got one that's 15 years old, it's, I don't know, it's sort of, this doesn't preclude us from playing. What it does really is it helps us about that going forward.
Ralph, what's the average life expectancy of a smart board?
I would say 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly once we have our much older than 5 years. And they're still living.
Yeah, and they may run longer, and you can start to get into the expensive repair and
Right.
upgrade, and yet the way is it worth it, or should we just fight for it? This is a lot of money for the smart boards, but when you really dig into their proposal, it's installation, it's the software run them, it's the cabling. I mean, there's a lot to their proposal that we're pretty comfortable with.
So if this is phase 1 of a 3-year plan, is the bid quote 3 years?
No,
So it's 1 year?
no, this is yeah. We'll bid it each year. These quotes are good for a month.
Gotcha.
We had to push a little bit to get them to hold it for a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So going back to what you said about, you're recommending that it gets, we approve each quote individually.
If we could, the board would be comfortable with that.
Is the board comfortable with that? Give me 1 second. I want to see how the
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
I saw that it was a 15 gig RAM, the Chromebooks. Do you know what they currently have? Is it 8? I mean, are
We
they?
have some with
Yes,
4 and
there's
some with 8.
Oh, some with 4?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's how old some of our stuff.
Okay.
If you want to do them both together, that's fine.
Yeah, I just take note, and so we can put that in the minutes. There's 2 quotes that are both presented on the board book for our review. Right, and they're under, actually on the agenda, it's under one item, but if you go into your board book, which everybody I know has reviewed, there's 2 separate quotes. one in the amount of $21,000 and another one $59,000. So, Sarah, let's just make note it's on the tape, and we can just put it in minutes, that if this action item gets approved, it is with the intent of both of those goals.
Sure.
All right. Ralph, thanks for your input, and this time I'll ask for a motion to approve the bid pool, being two, for the replacement of teacher computers and smart boards.
Second.
Motion made by Frank, second by roll call, please.
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mrs. Blau?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Berard?
Yes.
Mr. Schreiber?
Yes. Motion is carried. Consider the approval of new board policy 7345, students, as mentioned in the policy submitted earlier, specifically the use of educational technologies, student data privacy and security, this being second reading with adoption. Ralph, can you go into that a little bit?
So this is a new program called Student Online Privacy Protection Act, SOPA. One of the primary requirements is that boards adopt a policy regarding how they're going to implement the 35 different, 50 different requirements under this new legislation. And so I wanted to make sure that we have the board policy in place by July 1, which is the deadline. This meets all the statutory requirements for the policy. So we took the press policy, we reviewed it, cleaned up some of the notes off the paper that they sent us, and this will put us in compliance with that portion of this new legislation. And we are where I want us to be with regard to the other requirements. John Joe will be here next week or next month at our meeting. If you want to know more about some of the mundane things that's required in this legislation, we can provide you that. But I wanted to make sure we have the policy done and let you know that we are where I want us to be with regard to the other stuff.
Questions from the board? I'll ask for a motion to approve the new board policy 7345, students' use of educational technology, student data privacy and security, second reading of adoption.
Motion.
Second. I'll second that. Chris, Sarah, roll call please.
Mr. Berard?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Blau? Yes. Mr. Trevino?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck? Yes. Mr. Lozano?
Yes. Motion carries. Consider approval of revisions to district DE acceptable use agreement for district technology resources students.
All right, so what we provided you is the updated student acceptable use policy. This is one that hadn't been updated in a while, and we have, thanks to John, I asked him to get some, to review some exemplar policies that I have reached out to some of my colleagues for, and he reviewed those and has revised our policy for what you have here. So again, I'm very confident that it's current, it meets all the requirements regarding this particular issue in the statute. This will become, if it's not already in the handbook, it is in the handbook in this form, pending your approval. So again, this will be something that we would put on the webpage. We think it's important that you approve this. And I will tell you that next month I plan to bring to you an updated acceptable use policy for staff. We need to update that policy as well.
Board, comments, questions? I'll ask for a motion to approve the revisions to the acceptable use agreement for district technology resources students.
Second.
Move second, Frank, sir, roll call please.
Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
Mr. Trevino?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mrs. Beck? Yes. Mr. Berard?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Blau? Yes.
Motion carries. Consider the approval of purchase of curriculum materials for the 2021 through 2022 school year.
So we are bringing the materials that we need that are covered by these for purchase tonight for your approval.
Okay, those are all in the board book for review. With that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the purchase of curriculum materials for 2021 through the 2022 school year.
Motion. I'll do second.
Okay, motion made by Chris, seconded by Molly. Sarah, roll call.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo?
Yes.
Mrs. Flowers?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Shibuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Mazama?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is carried. I'll ask the board to consider approval of renewal quote for district property casualty student accident program for fiscal year 22 from collective liability insurance cooperative in the amount of $57,570. Any discussion on that? Questions? Make a motion to approve the renewal quote for district property casualty student accident program for fiscal year 22 from the collective liability insurance cooperative in the amount of $57,578. Motion made by Maria, seconded by Chris. Sarah, roll call, please.
Mrs. Flowers? Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Mazama?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Shibuzio?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo?
Yes. Motion carries. I'll ask the board to consider approval of a contract with West 40 for co-teaching professional development in the amount not to exceed $32,000.
Dave, to just give you a brief synopsis of this.
Yeah, we found that West 40 has an amazing established co-teaching professional development program that will be using some of our idea grant funds to support our co-teaching initiative here. And they have worked with, a variety of other school districts that we have relationships with, and we've really had, they've already come in and done 2 professional developments for us, and we have planned it to not only just do one-time, professional development, but actually provide coaching to our teachers throughout the year. And kind of actually a larger going beyond coaching and collaborative relationships and collaboration and really building that team approach. Not just that they can also with jobs to kind of support that as we go forward.
Board, any questions?
Do we have an idea of when we will have a concrete figure?
So the reason why it's that is that we do have a concrete figure. It's basically we have a contract written in that if we don't use it, we don't have to spend that. So a lot of it is kind of budgeted for coaching hours that, depending on any of that. So the max would be $32,000.
So where are we now?
Right now, we're at 10.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had, I believe, I think the contract, if I'm remember correctly, 103 hours altogether.
Yeah, 102.
102.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it
That's
comes
what
in.
it's about, Chris, so we'll monitor that.
Yeah.
This is your maximum exposure.
Just curious.
Yeah, no, it's good.
No, I appreciate the question.
Any other questions, comments? Dave, thank you. I'll ask for a motion to approve the contract with West 40 for co-teaching professional development, amount not to exceed $32,000. Motion made by Maria, second. Sarah, roll call, please.
Mr. Mazama?
Yes.
Mrs. Flowers? Yes. Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Shibuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo?
Yes. Motion does carry. I'll ask the board to consider approval of the intergovernmental agreement with West 40 for alternative school services. Any discussion?
So this is an agreement that we only pay if we use these services. What this agreement does is it facilitates the paperwork. It allows us to take a student that we need to transfer from one of our schools into the safe school. For example, it would be as a result of a weapons violation or something like that, where in lieu of an expulsion, we would transfer them to the safe school, or possibly to their alternative school. If we have somebody who just isn't making it here we could explore using the West 40 Alternative School, which I have been through, and I'm very, very impressed. We don't pay unless we use it, and it's $115 a day per student if we do. But they want the paperwork, and my understanding is this has been something that's been done in the past. This is pretty standard. And I have no problem with it.
Just to know, I took a quick look at it, and it's primarily for 6th grade graders.
Primarily,
Yeah, that's for motion to approve intergovernmental agreement with West 40 for alternative school services.
Motion.
Second. Second, Marie. Sarah, roll call?
Mrs. Beck? Yes. Mrs. Long? Yes. Mrs. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Madonna?
Yes.
Mr. Felicia?
Yes.
Mr. Berard?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Okay, motion carried. I'll ask the board to consider approval of the renewal contract for Corning Villa for student lunch service for 2021-2022 school year. Discussion, comments?
I have a question. What exactly is included in this year in an average lunch on a daily basis?
Sure, and they have dietitians that put those lunches together. So they have some kind of protein, they have some kind of grain, and they have some kind of fruit, vegetables.
Okay.
Very balanced. And all the feedback I've received around eating kids love the food,
Okay.
which is very different than our previous lunch country.
Perfect. That's what
Bob and I work very closely with them. They've always been very cooperative, trying to do everything they can.
Very respectful.
Would you be my consultant?
Yep.
Great.
Very balanced.
Craig, you can correct me, we have a multi-year contract for service.
On this one, we just, when I did the contract, it was for 1 year only, because I didn't want to do, we had really not good service before, so we didn't want to be tied in. But the process of having the food contract approved actually has to go through the state board. So even after all the bidding, and they have to approve every document, they have to approve the vendor and the pricing and everything. The contract is written so that it can be extended up to a year at a time, up to 5 years. At the end of 5 years, it will require to go back out and rebid according to, that's the national lunch program. But everything I've heard and all the references were great on this company. I think they've done a good job.
We've only been with them for a year.
Pardon?
We've only been with them for 1 year.
Yes.
They got 4 more left before you guys rebid, as long as you guys are
Right.
satisfied.
Right. It's about a 3 to 4 month process just to do that.
And that's if you have all the paperwork correct.
Yeah, right.
To their specifications and satisfaction. The reason I'm bringing this to you is because they're asking for an increase in the cost. It could result in additional expenditures on our part, and on the board to improve those. You know, we see them improve them. They're within the guidelines.
So for 2020, we didn't pay anything, right? Everything was free. So now they're asking for an increase?
So there's an increase to what they can charge for the National School Lunch Program, so they've increased that. So if it is a student who qualifies for the National School Lunch Program, or everyone who has been this year, they're charging up to as much as they can charge for that program. It's a very typical thing to happen. And I think it's up like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
3.96 And with the significant rapid rise in food costs, I want this locked in.
Right.
Because it's going up. If you want more information on how they do the meals, the National Free Lunch and Breakfast Program, if you just Google that, it'll give you what the guidelines are, and way more than you want.
Right, I just want to make sure that they're actually enjoying it, because if they're not, they're following all the guidelines, and it doesn't matter to me, not so much.
Some kids that really like food.
That's good.
The portions, my son described it as not being enough for my daughter to 20.
Yeah,
So,
find that out. It's just going to increase your disparity of boy versus girl is going to decrease over time.
Okay, I'll ask the board for a motion to approve the renewal contract for student life service for the 2021 through 2022 school year. Motion made by Chris, seconded by Frank. Sarah, roll call.
Mr. Monson?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
yes.
Mr. Berard?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala? Mr. Plaza?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Lozano?
Yes.
Moving on to our discussion items.
Sure. I just want to take the opportunity to give you a heads up for the next board meeting. As many of you know, we've been working on updating a 36-month plan for facilities. And the last meeting, I gave you an update about all the different projects and what the statuses were, and you basically approved the ones that were listed. One of the projects that was on there that says still to be determined was the HVAC system. And our HVAC needs are varied. We need to replace the controls at both Giles and Lee. We need to replace miscellaneous non-working equipment, which we won't know what that is until we do the controls and turn them on to see what works and what doesn't. And obviously we have 2 chillers at Giles and we have 3 chillers at Lee. We have been exploring the possibility of contracting with the work with Train because I've gone through both buildings and almost there isn't anything that should have a Train name on it. So there is some scale of efficiency and so forth. And under the purchasing and contracting laws in the state of Illinois, we can utilize state pricing through Omnia partners to do that. And that, I think, has been explained to you before, but quickly, it just means that it's been bid by a larger school system or a village or something than us, so we're taking advantage of the cheapest price somebody else has got. So it's kind of like a cooperative way of doing it. So Joe and myself and Pat have been talking with Train, talking internally about what would be the most cost-effective yet best way to approach this project. And at this point, again, this is a heads up, we are exploring the possibility of asking you to approve the purchase of 2 chillers for at the next meeting. There's a 12-week lead time. Both these chillers are on the ground, so we're not using cranes to put them over the building. We don't have to worry about liability crashing through the roof or anything like that. And Joe can actually install these himself. Worst case, if he's busy, we can contract to do that. But we have to have the equipment on site to do that. So we'd like to use Omni and go ahead and purchase that equipment. We would also like to execute a contract under the same Omni partners to have Train do the control work. So control work would be done. The 2 chillers would be delivered in, if you do the 12-week math, it's going to be like late October. The ideal time to install these is November. The cooling season is over. It's still warm enough outside. You can get everything hooked up, and we can have them tested. And these are the 2 that we need the most. Then what we would do is we would basically look at doing the other chillers either one at a time or based on need. Because there are 2 of them that are sitting on the roof that both Pat, Joe, and I all agree we shouldn't be doing at all. So those will have to be contracted at some point. There is a 3rd chiller that we wouldn't do right now, but it needs, it is on the ground and it's something we might consider doing in 23. The last time I talked to Joe, there was some indication that on one of the chillers there may be a compressor starting to go out. So the need to get these things done and take advantage of the pricing. As was mentioned before about the tech and pricing and some of the other stuff, the construction industry pricing is going up like crazy. Several of the HVAC vendors have already had a couple price increases since we started talking to them. By ordering it next month, we've locked in 21 pricing, and we get to do all the installation work in off-season. So we're not asking you to prove anything tonight. I just wanted to bring you all up to date based on all our conversations. And then we can give you a price figure and how all that would work and motion and so forth. Yes.
Since I acknowledge in my ears, you said doing it in-house, too exciting. Could we get a bidder so to see what it would cost if we didn't do it in-house, so we could show the savings? When she says we have this, to show bids of how much we would be paying to a contractor if we were not doing it in-house.
Yes, I already have an idea. I already have that number.
Do you have a number that you might be able to throw at us and say how much we would save? I got an idea. I just want to hear yours.
Well, the quote that I got was for, the price I got was for 3. I just need to redo it and take those numbers out, but I can give it to you at the next meeting. I can provide that information.
Awesome. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, the VAS control system is going to be about the same.
Right.
It's something we shouldn't be doing because of all the software and everything like that.
Okay.
On the other piece, what you have to realize is that they're marking up, basically it's almost 50% equipment, 50% labor,
Right.
or half and half. And ours is probably going to be half to 2/3 of the labor piece. So
Right.
that's where we save the
I
money.
just want to show everybody the savings.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there may be, and it'll be part of the package, because I told Joe, one of my concerns in managing construction is, he still has to take care of these buildings too.
Right.
So we may end up wanting to, for example, hire citywide for an extra person while he's doing that, which is still a lot cheaper.
On time and material, right?
Right, you got it.
Right, okay.
So, yes, but I'll get you the analysis with the number.
Dr. Snyder, go back for it. The 2 chillers that the board is going to be expected to see next month for approval, where can we expect the funding from? Where's that coming out of?
The funding for that is going to come from the bonds that were sold.
Cool. All right.
Because we have a requirement when we signed off saying we were going to issue working cash capital improvement for capital projects, there's a percentage that has to be spent within so many days. So that's going to be part of satisfying that percentage.
And I mentioned this to Ralph and Michelle too. I think moving forward, not that it hasn't been done, but we got to be very specific, because there's a lot of moving pieces now, right? There's money coming in, we have the bond money, then essentially, our budget money, what we're doing. So anytime, I'm going to just put it up on the open here, on the tape, anytime that something's coming on the board vote, if we can specify specifically as to where that's coming from, just so the board has an idea of what's on it.
And I think that you should also note that I think we're all on the same agreement that from an administrative point of view, if we can do most of the work without touching ESSER money, that's the last money that we use. Because if you, I didn't know what the list was before I came to the meeting tonight, but when Ralph starts reading 9 items, 20 items, 15 items, it sounds like the ESSER money's almost all spent.
I just say that because there's ESSER money coming in now,
Right.
there are tiers of that money, there's bond money, it is what it is, there's the budget, the expense, the revenues, and when you start talking about purchasing things, there's a lot, I feel there's a lot of moving parts, but we can just zone in where that funding is coming from, it helps to be more fluid.
I'll make sure it's included in each of them.
But generally speaking, as much as possible. ESSER money is expenditures for education. Bond money, expenditures for building.
That's what we're trying to do, yes. I mean, we're all working to do
Greg and I
that.
have that understanding. That's not to say that things couldn't change. Something could come up. But we're all same page as far as leveraging every dollar we have the best that we can. So, and we'll continue to do that.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Schill? Have a good meeting. Dr. Schill, thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Teacher, please return to learn.
All right, so just want to let you know tonight that we are working on a couple of things relative to return to learn, and that's kind of a generic term. I have a letter that we will be sending out to all of our district parents, giving them an update of where we are relative to the start of school in August. If we can get that sent out this week, we will. If not, it'll be next week. We'll post it on the webpage. Basically, it just talks about the fact that we're giving them the open dates for school, the daily schedule of each building. That we anticipate being live 5 days a week, all day. And then we expect students to return to full-time attendance. There's some other things in there relative to vaccinating students, right? I'm not taking a position or advocating for one or the other, just telling people that, it's an individual parent choice whether they want their child to be vaccinated if they're 12 or older. There is a caveat that I put in the letter that if a child is vaccinated and they are symptomatic, they don't have to quarantine for 10 days or 14 days. And there's a few other things, but mostly we're also telling them that, look, things could change over the course of the next several weeks or the next 2 months, and we will keep them updated, all right? So that's kind of an initial piece of information that we're going to put out. Now, the other thing we're working on is a more formalized plan that addresses a number of areas that we are required to do in order to submit our ESSER 3 grant. We have to have a formal board-approved return to learn plan. There needs to be a public hearing on that plan. And both of those things, both the plan has to be approved, the public hearing, have to happen before we can submit the ESSER 3 plan for consideration by ASB. Our hope is by next month to give you a draft of the return to learn plan. I think we'll be able to make that, and then our thinking would be at the August meeting, we would have the public hearing, ask you to formally approve that, and then we should be ready internally to submit that ESSER 3 grant application. The ESSER 3 grant application is not out yet, so we're not behind in any way, shape, or form. We anticipated sometime around July 1st. I personally think it will be a little bit later than that. But I just want you to know that we're working on this. This letter's coming out. Trying to keep it as neutral as possible, but informative, and we are working on the actual return to learn plan, and that's our process. So if you have any specific items that you want to make sure that we're considering, or you want us to address, please let me know. We will be sure to do that.
Silly question, but if this comes in place, or this gets determined that return to learn 5 days a week in person, the parent says, I'm really going to want to opt for a remote, so go, keep the kid home, that qualifies as truth.
Maybe. Here's what's happening. I had a long conversation with Dr. Mark Kleisner, the executive director of the West 40 Intermediate Service Center. I've known Mark for years. We did some work at the state level together. The West 40 ISC is with permission from ISB, exploring the possibility of creating an online virtual school for the members of the West 40 ISC to send their students to, right? Because you can learn virtually from anywhere. Now, there's a lot of details to be worked out, but that might be a really viable option for us rather than trying to dedicate a single teacher across a broad span of grades or multiple teachers for a few students. So we're going to look at that very carefully, and I hope to have some more information on that next month. I don't want to get too far in front of that because I don't know what the governor's going to do. I don't know what CDC is going to recommend. I don't know what IDPH is going to recommend. I don't know what Cook County is going to recommend. We're just kind of in this really weird holding pattern right now, trying to prepare really for two parallel tracks until we know for sure which way we're going to go. But before we would make a decision like participating in that type of a virtual school, we'll have a lot of conversation with you about it.
I would assume that virtual school, if we decide to participate, it's really not an option. That would also have to follow all of the guidelines.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Then they have to follow our to the extent possible, all of our requirements for our students also. What I've seen and heard so far is very well thought out, and I think you'll be very happy with it, but I don't have anything in writing to show you tonight. But I hope to have that fairly soon.
One thing, there was a post on social media about Mr. Beatty not wearing, the students not wearing masks. That is not something the school board decides. Isn't that coming from the CDC and?
Yeah, I mean, right now today, the guidance is still that students and staff will be in masks if they're here. It's one of those things that's kind of up in the air. We'll adjust accordingly if in fact whoever of all those acronyms that was rattled off says you can change. We're on it. We're monitoring it. We have 11 things that we're thinking about including in our plan. We have a template, we have a format, and we're making some good progress toward it. So that's kind of the direction we're going in return to that.
Review of nursing services for 21 and 22.
Last month, I asked you to allow me to look into bringing in hiring our own nurses for Lee and for John's. So I included, and it's kind of sideways, so I apologize about that. If you expand it, you can read it a little bit better. But I included a study of how much nurses cost the district when we outsource them. Nursing is going up on outsourced, $68 an hour. For an outsourced nurse with an average of 8 hours a day is $95,000. So I am recommending that we post nurse positions and hire our own staff as nurses, which will, if we look at a starting salary with the insurance, IMRF would be about $60,000. Which would be a savings of about $88,000, assuming we do find quality candidates that we like. One of the candidates that I would like to have the board consider is our current Lee school nurse, who we really enjoyed working with. She is very dedicated to the district. She is in a contract through Maxim, so that would require a $5,000 buyout from her contract from Maxim, a one-time buyout. Currently, we have one nurse at Lee, one nurse at Giles. We'll be looking at both of those positions full-time next year, and then we have a one-to-one nurse needed for a student. We look at 3 positions. Correct.
Questions for?
Sorry.
Okay.
I hired a lot of people, so the $5,000 buyout, is that flat no matter, how many billable hours with that's maximum?
So it's typically a 30% buyout, which would be 30% of what she's currently making right now. I negotiated that down to $5,000 flat.
Do we currently have 3 nurses or just 2 right now?
This year, we have one that started in April at Giles, that was 30 hours. Previous to that, we didn't feel the need for a nurse there. Here at Lee, we've had a full-time nurse, and then our student who is requiring a one-to-one nurse was remote. We have heard from that family, that student is coming to school next year. And we certainly monitor that before we would make any decisions on hiring.
So we're asking permission to advertise for those positions and any recommendations?
None.
Use of facilities for coaching and training in school.
Okay, so in your packet, I gave you copies of emails, correspondence that we received, from Michelle, from the folks who direct the training and learning center for training and learning, and the Polish Saturday School. They have been very patient, waiting for us to get back to them on whether or not we were going to allow them to use rooms as per their request here in the 2 emails. We had a couple of things that we wanted to just make sure we talked about. We wanted to get your opinion on whether or not we should do this, and then whether or not your approval was contingent on looking at board policy 8:20, the community use of school facilities. So we have informed both of these people that we were going to bring this to you tonight as a discussion item and hopefully have some kind of guidance from you on how we wish to proceed. And I would anticipate that tomorrow they will both reach out to you, Michelle or Bob, because they're very interested in using our facility.
So I have a couple of questions about the communities, thank you for everything else. And Bob and Michelle, whoever can jump in, please jump in. The Ukrainian school representative is asking for 5 to 7 meals on Saturday between 8:30 and 2. And in the 1920 was 72 students, all right?
Right.
How many students do they have? Are they expecting? It's not in there. And I feel like I've asked this question multiple times, and I'm not directing it to anybody in this room, but I'm going to say it again. How many of these students are District 80 students? Do we have any idea? Because the next thing I'm reading, they're asking for 13 rooms. This is a public school now. Occasional gym time, storage rooms, and now a cafeteria. So I want to revisit our policy. I want to know where that policy is in regard to use of facilities, and I want to know the people that are using the facilities that belong to the people of District 80, how many students are District 80 students using these facilities? And does that coincide with our policy? That's what I want to know.
I don't know currently how many students they're looking at for next year at the Ukrainian school.
Mm-hmm.
The Polish school is looking to expand. They have, at the highlight of their program, at 325 kids. I don't know if that will continue for them. Obviously, they are interested in starting to advertise and get that moving along. So I don't know. As far as how many are District 80 students, we haven't asked for a list or anything like that, but they give us a general, they're mostly District 80 students. But we don't have a percent of what that is. We can get that for you. I would imagine that changes.
This would sound crazy, but they offer a special price to District 80 students, that way we know.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I understand this is being recorded. I understand it's being minute. Me personally, I'm getting a little exhausted on this topic. We keep revisiting it, and I feel like we sit in this gym. We don't know how many of these are our students. We don't know if it coincides with our policy, and I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm uncomfortable with this discussion because we're not where we need to be. That's me personally. And somebody else may be very comfortable with it, but where are we at that? Can anybody answer that? Are we going to rent these facilities out? Are we good with that? 13 rooms, do we have enough personnel? Do we have enough cleaning? Is this all covered?
Yeah, so my purpose for bringing it to you tonight is to is for you to put those questions to us so that we can get answers. I think you know by now, I will bring you back those answers. My thinking is, if on the surface, we're not comfortable saying we're going to allow them to use 13 rooms, the gym, and cafeteria, then there's no point in engaging in further conversation.
Not if it puts our staff's personal items or their classrooms or their material in question a little bit, right? Is that happening? Do we know? Like our students' desks are in these rooms. There's their belongings, there's their items. Me? No. I'm not interested in continuing the conversation until I know more about how many designated students are involved and if it coincides with the policy that we have. I want to follow policy, and I want to open up the buildings. I think the board is making it clear. We want to open up the buildings, the gym, the cafeteria, the rooms, if possible, and if it benefits the kids, right? And it coincides with our policy. Our students, right? I mean, that's how I feel.
I agree. And I don't even think asking them for a percentage, not to be rude, but they can say, oh, 50%, how do we know for sure? Like, give us a list of the students. I mean, let's take it further.
But at the same time, right? But it needs to match what the policy says, right?
I think this is too much, in my opinion.
Well, there's another piece to this, frankly. Michelle, you're correct. In our conversations, I've got the impression that we're not charging them relative to what other schools are charging outside entities to use their facilities. We're way undercharging. And so, again, this is one where if you tell us tonight, we're done with this, we don't want to talk about it, I'm not going to ask Michelle, and I'm not going to spend my time trying to figure out what an appropriate charge is, to go back to them and say, look, we're interested, but it's not going to be $25 a classroom. It's going to be more like $225 a classroom. All right? So, I understand the frustration, but there's a method to my madness here, and I want to be able to move forward in the best way that will give us the resolution either tonight, and you say, no, we don't want to consider this, or, yeah, work it up, bring it back to us, we'll tell you how many kids, we'll tell you what we think is an appropriate number, we'll communicate that to them. They may say, hey, we're not going to pay that.
Let me be clear, I'm not frustrated, I'm frustrated myself, because I feel we keep having this conversation and we don't know the answers to these questions. We should know by now. We've had this discussion multiple times, and I speak for myself, I'm not comfortable moving forward. There's too many questions I think the board has, and we don't have the answer to them. But yet they want to know tomorrow, we're going to call and say, can we do it? Well, I'm not comfortable saying,
We put them off this one, I mean, that's fine. I mean, we told them that we were going to bring it to you as a discussion item.
Yeah.
And we made no promises about where that discussion would go.
Does the board feel, did anybody else on the board feel differently, or?
I really like the idea of schools being made available for the right deal. But when I saw what they were asking,
Exactly.
Well, of course they're going to ask. I mean,
Why not?
you go buy a house,
You know.
maybe not now, but usually local, right? You go buy a car, you're local because you know you're going to negotiate, so you have some room. There's also the logistics of what happens outside. I know what happens outside during the school year with all these cars and all these people. And who's going to manage that? Because there's not going to be that one police officer trying to coordinate all of that too.
Well, there are other issues. Who's going to open and close the building?
Right.
Who's going to conduct cleaning? Sam, your question about, our student stuff and our teacher stuff exposed, certainly it's exposed. There's going to be things that happen as a result of that.
Let me ask the question. Maybe we don't open up the classrooms. Maybe we do give them the gymnasium. I think that's limited exposure to personal items, teachers' items, kids' items. But then you also gotta get a lot of money for that too. Because somebody does have to open and close the door.
I think, me personally, the only time I'm looking to open the doors to an outside company or however you want to look at it is the benefit of the kids, right? The revenue is never going to be worth it, right? The wear and tear, the liabilities. So I'm for opening it if it's opportunity for our district age students, right? I don't foresee this being enough. We can charge 200, and is that even still enough? To me, it's not. You know? So, you know, you can throw any silly number out there. I don't think we're considering this for our revenue base, because we're not, you know, that's my thought on it. Now, if there's a source that wants to come in and benefiting District 80 students, of course, 25, you know, because we know that's something for our students, but for revenue base, there's not enough money that justifies them opening up the doors. That's just my opinion.
Well, we don't really know how many District 80 students they actually have either, so I think that's the biggest question. Because they might have a significant amount of our students that want to do this on a Saturday that their parents are making them do on a Saturday.
Right.
I'm going to go back to the policy, right? Because if the policy language doesn't stipulate that, where are we with that, Michelle?
I don't believe the policy language stipulates that. The last time we spoke about 8:20, we were going to speak about it again, and because you guys wanted to throw around ideas of what you wanted to do, and we have not.
Myself included, I say this comment, I include myself, I'm number one here, with this comment. We keep throwing it around, but we haven't caught what we want yet. We're not there. So to make this decision, I know we're not gonna, but we need to go back to the policy. And we know what we want that policy to say. I think it sounds like we know what we want it to say. We gotta get it, we gotta get it, adopt it, and put it in place. What we believe are our values that we want inside that policy. Everybody wants to open up the gym and let our kids do more, but we can't pick and choose. It's gotta be adapted to the policy.
The last two things you were discussing were how many students are District 80 students, and if it had to be a non-for-profit. Those are the two items that you were kind of going around about.
But we're throwing, we're not, nothing's concrete yet.
And then we did created a contract in 8:20 that, as Ralph talked about, was $25 a day, plus cleaning.
So right now, the policy in facility rentals is not, it's not in there. We suspended it, right?
It is not suspended.
It became unsuspended, but it hasn't been changed. It's the same policy.
Correct, has not been changed. We only added the piece from Korea on the contract that we have currently with the Polish school.
Right, so that's what I mean, like, if we're sitting around the table here, we're all, it seems like we're all saying the same thing. We want our kids to be able to use the facilities, not a problem. And it's not about the money. It's not about the money, it's about the use of the facilities in a certain way, a safe way, and especially for the communities, people, you know what I mean?
It isn't about the money, but you do need to consider the cost because there's heating and air conditioning of the building. There's also the cleaning, the citywide person. So we had the citywide person $165 a day. That's what it was currently. Obviously, we made 3 classrooms. Obviously, if they're going to be looking at 12, 15 classrooms, that's going to expand how much cleaning we need. That person also was the person that kind of kept an eye on everything, made sure everyone was in the areas they're supposed to be.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. We always want to consider the cost of what we're doing. But I want, to me, I think that consideration goes down a little bit if it's the community that's actually using it. This building, Giles, belongs to the community. Does not belong to people who do not live in the community. There's a difference there, to me. That's all. That's all.
So, all right, so let me bring this to you. What I'll bring to you next month is the policy. Okay? I've heard some things tonight that I haven't heard before. We'll bring you a proposed revision. You've approved policy on first reading, so you could approve with modifications at the meeting in July, and we could then use that modified policy to help make this decision.
Yes, thank you.
We will do that. No problem.
Okay, any other board comments?
Just in general, is it open to, or just based off of the last topic?
Any comments?
I just have a question. Do we know of any curriculum changes mandated by the state going into the 2021-22 school year? There's been a lot of chatter of new curriculum. I just want to know if there's any mandated changes that we know of.
Yeah, so, thank you, Mr. Berardi, for calling me yesterday and giving me a chance to dig in this a little bit before tonight. Going into the legislative session, there were 24 curriculum mandate bills filed across a tremendously wide spectrum of topics. Coming out of the legislative session, 9 of those 24 passed the House and the Senate and are waiting, being sent to the governor for his veto or his approval. I don't know if the remaining 9 bills have been sent to the governor. I believe once it reaches his desk, he has either 30 or 60 days, I believe 60 days to sign the bill to make it become law, which means we would then be responsible for implementing those things. So I have a document that I got from our ISA lobbyist. I will scan these and send them out to you, hopefully tomorrow, so that you can take a look at those.
And one more question. I've heard, or there's been talks, if a district does not exercise these curriculum changes, could they potentially lose funding from the city?
Well, that's how the system is designed to work. It works through the compliance system with the Regional Office of Education. They come in every year, and one of the things that they're supposed to check is, can we document that we're meeting all of the curriculum mandates, for example. So sometimes they will check and look at teacher lesson plans, curriculum material that's distributed to students, and so on and so forth. So when they do this assessment, then they look at everything in total, in the aggregate, and they make a decision. Are you in compliance or not? Are you doing what you're supposed to do? Can you document? If in their opinion we're not, chances are we would get a letter of reprimand demanding that we respond with a plan to become compliant. And if that happens 2 or 3 times in a row, then technically, yes, they could recommend that the state not continue to certify us. And if that happens, then they would not pay us any to state aid. It's possible. It doesn't happen very often, if at all, but it is possible.
Any other board comments? I ask the board to consider a motion to adjourn the closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, or dismissal of specific employees and review closed session minutes. Motion. No. Is there any discussion on that? Now I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees and to review closed session minutes.
Motion.
Motion made by Chris, seconded by roll call, please, sir.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala? Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Trudizio?
Yes.
Mr. Mazani?
Yes.
Our motion carries over time, 8:34, let's meet back 8:45. All right, we are now back in open session at 10:51 p.m. Moving on to personnel action items. I'd like the board to consider approval of the Director of Technology contract. Discussions and questions. I'll ask for a motion to approve the Director of Technology's contract. Motion. Motion made by Molly, seconded by Lou. Sarah, roll call, please.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Mazani?
Yes.
Mr. Trudizio?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Okay, motion does carry. Ask the board to consider the approval of the lead maintenance contract. Questions and or discussion? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve the lead maintenance contract.
I'll motion.
Second.
Renzo, second by Chris. Roll call, please.
Mr. Berard.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo.
Yes.
Mrs. Beck.
Yes.
Mrs. Lala.
Yes.
Mr. Kaminga.
Yes.
Mr. Lozano.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Consider the approval of employment of interim superintendent. Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve the appointment of interim superintendent.
Motion. Second.
We'll be with the, well, we'll be seconded by, roll call, please.
Mrs. Beck.
Yes.
Mrs. Lala.
Yes.
Mr. Lozano.
Yes.
Mr. Berard.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo.
Yes.
Mr. Kaminga.
Yes.
Okay, motion does carry.
I think I want to say thank you. No, I really do. Thank you for the trust you placed in me. I will work very hard to make sure that it's done.
You're quite welcome.
Yes.
As the board consider the approval of Gabriel Cordes as paraprofessional for extended school year program. Questions and or discussion? I need a motion to approve Gabriel Cordes as paraprofessional for the extended school year program.
Motion.
Second.
First, second, Sarah, roll call.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mrs. Beck.
Yes.
Mr. Lozano.
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo.
Yes.
Mr. Kaminga.
Yes.
Mrs. Lala.
Yes.
Mr. Berard.
Yes.
Motion does carry. Ask the board to consider approval of recommendation regarding Giles School Principal. Questions and or discussion? Okay, now I'll ask for a motion to approve the recommendation regarding Giles School Principal. Second, you have Lorenzo, seconded by Maria. Roll call, please.
Mr. Berard.
Yes.
Mrs. Lala.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo.
Yes.
Mr. Kaminga.
Yes.
Mr. Lozano.
Yes.
Mrs. Beck.
Yes.
That motion does carry. We should have some reflection at this time.
I would like to thank everyone for your confidence in me. I will work extremely hard for everyone, the students, the staff, the community, the board. I really appreciate everything. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Bob, and support.
No, you're right. You don't need to. Yeah, you're right. We can say, we can say, that's probably what I was. Okay.
All right, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn at 10:55 p.m. Motion to adjourn, second by Louis. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Meeting is adjourned,